Fred Richani of TSC. We're presenting you guys the official press conference from the 2020 NFL Scouting Combine of Indianapolis Colts head coach Frank Reich. Oh yeah, we happen to be here in the neck of the woods for the Colts, Lucas Oil Stadium, the Indiana Convention Center, and he had a lot to say about quarterback Jacoby Brissett and their 2020 expectations. Check it out.
You have to be able to adapt. I mean, that's exciting. That's exciting to me. I don't look at myself, even though I've been in this league a long time, and I was a classic drop back passer. I never even thought about doing some of the things these guys do today, but that's why we have the staff that we have to stay in front of it, be creative, keep looking at what fits, what doesn't fit. You can't do everything. You just can't be a copycat league, but there are certain things that fit our personnel that we got to stay in front of.
Because of the 5 things you talked about in the quarterback position and intangibles, does that maybe why there's more misses at the position, high-profile misses in the first round?
I think the misses come from exactly what you're saying, Chap. I think they come from the intangibles, and I think they come from the processing. I think it's one of the tricks of the trade is, I think, how do you figure out? I mean, there's a lot of things you can test right here physically, but how do you test how fast a guy thinks, somebody's cognitive ability? And that's, to me, an exciting aspect. There's a lot of new things out there around that, but I think that's where the 2 biggest areas where the misses come from.
In a great locker room, Chris is talking about friction. How do you get there with the guys currently?
Yeah, friction. Yeah, Chris made a big deal about that. I think that's competition. That's getting guys who have that competitive spirit, whose status quo is not good enough, and we're going to hold each other accountable. We're going to fight hard to get better, and so don't get in the way. And if you get in the way, we're not going to walk by that. We're going to call that out. So I think that's what we're talking about.
Being a former Buffalo Bill, how have you seen Sean McDermott and his staff build towards success?
I'm very excited for Sean and the Bills. Obviously playing there for 10 years, I'm a huge Bills fan, even though they're in the AFC. But when it doesn't hurt the Colts, I root for the Bills. In particular, I think very highly of Sean McDermott. I think he's a class head coach. I think he's excellent X and O guy. I think he's a great leader. Very happy to see what he's doing there in Buffalo.
Frank, as a head coach, what's the most important aspect of this week for you? I think a lot of people obviously have a lot on Chris's shoulders, but for you, what's the most important?
Yeah, just to get a better feel. There's a lot of guys I've looked at the tape. Meet some of them personally. You guys know how it works. The interviews are short, so I don't overweight those. You get a little information from those. You get a feel. I mean, we're doing some interviews last night, for instance, and I have my notepad there. And so we have an 18-minute interview with a guy, and I might write down, I'd say of the interviews we did, I wrote down on average probably 5 or 6 bullet point things with the guy. Like his body language, like how quickly he responded to that question. He didn't get defensive, things like that, just things you take notice of. So that it reminds you when you go back and you're watching tape or you're talking to his coach or you're talking to somebody else, you add those all up.
In terms of measuring that mental processing like you're talking about, I know you can't tell us what tools you use, but are there tools that you are confident in?
I mean, I think there's more tools out there today. For me, the one way I think that most old school coaches do it, I like to try to be a blend of the old and new. I like using the new technology and things like that, which I wouldn't want to go into, but then some of it is just watching film with a guy, and you got to be able to ask the right questions. You got to be able to get the pace of the film session going so fast that he has to think quick on his feet. You have to plan those sessions out so that you can maximize and put his mind in a position that forces him to be challenged mentally. And I think if you do that for long enough, you can get some idea.
That's the kind of thing you have to do on a visit or bring.
Exactly. That's why 18 minutes is not enough time. It's just not enough time. So when you really, dig down at other positions, it's important for every position. It's really important for quarterback. It's really important for offensive linemen, from the offensive side of the ball. It's important for all the other positions as well, but I think it's even more important in those 2 positions. I don't know why we had that play in the game plan, or what's that player doing there? Why did we mess that up? Why didn't we make that throw? How did we miss that block? It all gets evaluated, and not for the purpose of tearing down, but to get better. So I just had a conversation the other day with Jacoby, just check in, like to check in with the guys, checked in with Jacoby. And, you talk about those things. I love the culture we've created in our building where guys want to get better. They know it's competitive. I think Jacoby did a lot of really good things in unusual circumstances, and so just looking forward to him continuing to get better.
How do you think he'll respond to the end of his season? Because I know he said he didn't like how it finished.
I think he'll respond great. We all know what he stands for. He's a stand-up guy. He'll take responsibility. We all know that it's not all the quarter. When things go bad, we know it's very complex. But what I love about Jacoby is he takes ownership for his part.
Hey Frank, a similar question. This is not from you guys, but there's always speculation on this side of the microphone about quarterbacks and that kind of thing. Jacoby, how does he process that, do you think? I don't know if you talked about it, but just from knowing him, how do you think he processes that?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't, no, great question. And we did, when I talked to him the other day, we really didn't go there.
Sure.
Every player in this league knows there's very few players that have the luxury of saying, I'm a lock 24/7. I don't have to ever worry about job security. That's a luxury in this league that not very many people have. So, we don't talk about that kind of stuff. It's the unwritten, it's the unspoken truth that we all know exists, and you're a man about it. You welcome the competition, and let's get better.
When you evaluate quarterbacks, what specifically do you look for when you're looking at their tape?
Yeah, I look for 5 things. I look for toughness, mental and physical toughness. I look for accelerated vision. That's another fancy, that's my definition or my word for how fast do you think on your feet. I look for accuracy. You have to be really accurate in this league. The windows are small. You have to look for good feet. Any sport is played from the ground. Most sports are played from the ground up. So as a quarterback, that's really important how you play this game with your feet. And then the last thing is you look for the intangibles, the leadership. Are you the playmaker in the big moments? And he's really patient, and I've really come to appreciate that. And we were just talking the other day, even in the last 2 years we've been together, we kind of recounted some scenarios over the last 2 years of moves that we were thinking about making, didn't make, could have spent big money, didn't. I'm not going to go into what these were. And it turns out we were right, not to chase it. I mean, there's 2 specific examples that I'm thinking of that guys that we thought, this might be the guy, this might be that selected guy. We go down the road a little bit, and then it just doesn't, something happens, it doesn't work out. And now 2 of those in 2 years we look back at, and both of them ended up playing out better for us.
We'll keep it among us. Who would they be?
Chris can share that with you if he wants to.
The other side where you didn't go after a guy that you wish you would have.
Great question. I block those out of my mind.
As well as names, by the way.
Yeah.
As a head coach, Frank, though, is that hard knowing, okay, I know Chris has said you guys want to build through the draft, be, smart free agent-wise, but when you're the head coach and, you're basing off wins and losses, is that hard for you not to kind of try to nudge Chris and say, hey, maybe we should go after and spend a little more money on this guy?
Yeah, no, you're right. You're exactly right. As a head coach, you get measured by wins and losses. So from my perspective, it's like, hey, it doesn't matter. Just let's get through the next year. But that's where ownership comes into play. And every meeting with Mr. Irsay is don't deviate from the plan. We build from the draft. We build inside out. We're very selective and free. He's willing to spend, but that doesn't mean just because we're willing to spend that you're reckless. So, we have the support of ownership, and I know that he's patient. So as a coach, that gives me confidence to take the long approach as well.
Like Eric in the tight end position, are you looking for somebody to kind of fill that prototype of what he did, or are you open to somebody else who has different skill sets?
We're open. I'm open to different skill set. I obviously love Eric's skill set. He's a dynamic player. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. The tight end's pretty important in offense. We love the tight ends we have. Jack Doyle's a great player. Mo Alley Cox is on the rise. With those 2 guys alone, I feel very good about where we're headed. I haven't even dug into, I talked about receivers and quarterbacks. I haven't really dug into the tight ends yet to really spend plenty of time on them. But for us, that's a pretty important position.
Combine in Indy, but let's stack another one on. Why should the NFL draft move here? I know it's in the works, but why?
Indy's it's a proven commodity. We've been winners with the Combine. We've been winners with the Super Bowl, right? So we know how to. Indianapolis knows how to do it. We know how to put together a national event. We know how to do it with class. We got the right leaders in place to do it, and we're undefeated. So bring it on.